There is this incredibly specific, intoxicating rush that comes with deciding you're going to completely change your life.
Oh, absolutely. The fresh start high.
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking about that moment where you go out and buy a brand new expensive notebook, you hold it in your hands, you feel the weight of the thick paper.
You hear that crisp crack of the binding opening for the very first time.
Yes. And you genuinely believe, like in your bones, that just owning this object will somehow magically transform you into a completely organized, highly productive, totally different person.
It's a profound psychological high.
Yeah.
We've all experienced it. You hold that untouched notebook, and for a brief, beautiful second, you aren't the person who procrastinates or, hits snooze 4 times a morning.
Right. You're the idealized, flawless version of yourself.
Exactly. Just waiting to be written onto those blank pages.
Well, welcome to a deep dive. Today, we are tracing the exact chronological life cycle of the self-improvement reset. We're going to follow the emotional and practical journey of someone, maybe you, listening right now, trying to fundamentally change their life.
We're dissecting the exact moments where things go off the rails.
Yeah, and unpacking the brutal mental shifts required to actually finish the journey, because the material we're pulling from today gives us a narrative map of behavioral patterns, not just a list of life hacks.
Right. And the goal is to help you stop resetting the surface of your life. We want you to understand the deep psychological machinery that drives you so you never have to endlessly restart this same painful journey again.
So let's start right at the beginning. Day one. The trigger for this is always a fresh start.
It's always a new Monday or the first of the month.
Or New Year's Day, obviously.
Hmm.
And you arm yourself with props. You've got the new journal we just talked about. You sign up for a premium gym membership. You spend like 2 hours curating the ultimate high-energy Spotify playlist.
The sheer power of that initial momentum is fascinating. I mean, for the first 3 days, the transformation feels entirely real.
Oh, yeah. You wake up early, you eat the complex carbohydrates, you hit the gym.
You write your intentions in the journal.
Hmm.
You genuinely feel like you shed your old skin. You catch your reflection and think, who is this highly functional stranger?
Well, hold on. I need to challenge this framing for a second. If I am going to start running, I objectively need running shoes, right?
Sure.
If I want to track my budget, downloading a finance app makes total sense. So why does the research treat this initial burst of preparation, this gear gathering, like it's some sort of dangerous psychological trap?
Well, it comes down to how our dopamine system is wired. The trap isn't the running shoes themselves.
Okay.
The trap lies in the psychological weight we assign to acquiring them.
Mm-hmm.
Our brains have this anticipatory reward system. It evolved to release dopamine when we're about to do something beneficial, right? To motivate us.
To actually do the work.
Exactly. But in our modern consumer culture, that system gets really easily hijacked. When you buy the expensive planner, your brain releases a massive wave of dopamine. It effectively tricks your nervous system into feeling a profound sense of accomplishment before you've done a single second of actual work.
Oh, wow. So I am getting the chemical reward for running the marathon just by, like, swiping my credit card at the shoe store.
Yes, you get the reward without the friction. You're changing the routine and you're changing the props, but you are doing absolutely nothing to change the person running the routine.
That makes so much sense.
People buy new gear and passively wait for a new identity to install itself. They treat it exactly like a software update on their phone.
Oh, man, like you click download, you go to sleep.
And you expect to wake up operating on iOS 17.
But human behavior doesn't have an automatic update feature.
It absolutely doesn't. The underlying foundation, your deep-seated fears, your coping mechanisms, your avoidance habits, they remain completely untouched. You are relying on the frictionlessness of the new props to carry you.
Rather than, building the internal engine required to do the heavy lifting when things actually get hard.
Precisely.
Which brings us to the inevitable reality check. Let's look at day 7.
Day 7.
The alarm goes off. It is dark outside. It's cold. By day 7, that intoxicating chemical high we just talked about has completely evaporated.
When it's gone.
You wake up and suddenly you find yourself sitting exactly back where you started. The new journal is sitting on the nightstand, completely untouched. The workout playlist just sounds like annoying background noise.
The physical props have lost their magical aura. They aren't talismans of a new identity anymore. Now they're just heavy, guilt-inducing objects sitting in your room, silently judging you.
Judging you for what you didn't do. And the guilt is crushing. But here's where we hit a massive shift in perspective that the research emphasizes.
A really important shift.
Right. This day 7 crash is not a failure. It is a pattern. Think about it like financial debt. It's like trying to fix a maxed out credit card by buying a much nicer, more expensive leather wallet.
That's a great analogy. You've changed the container, but the underlying behavioral debt is exactly the same.
Yeah. You keep buying new wallets every single Monday, wondering why your bank account is still overdrawn.
And labeling that day 7 crash as a pattern rather than an isolated failure, that is a monumental shift for anyone listening to this. It forces a terrifying level of accountability.
How so?
Well, when you fail once, you can blame the weather or your boss or a bad night of sleep. But if it's a recurring pattern that happens every single time you try to reset, it means the superficial resets are practically designed to fail.
Because they keep you focused on the wallet instead of the spending habits.
Yes. And this realization is the crucial bridge in the journey. It takes you from having a passive experience of failing, where you feel like life just sort of happens to you, to an active investigation of your own self-sabotage.
A pattern demands analysis.
Exactly. It demands that you stop looking outward at the shiny tools you lack and start looking inward at the behavioral loop you are trapped in.
And if the day 7 crash is a pattern, we reach the climax of this whole process, the turning point. To make a reset actually hold, to finally push past day 7, you have to do something that almost every single human being desperately avoids.
You have to tell yourself the brutal truth about why the last reset failed.
This requires dismantling the dual realities we all live in. There is the excuse you tell people, and then there is the real reason.
The ugly, unvarnished truth that you've been fiercely protecting from yourself.
Right. Think of the public excuse as your internal press secretary.
I love this concept.
It's so accurate. Your press secretary goes to the podium, addresses your friends and family, and says, I paused the diet because I really need to prioritize my mental health and practice self-care right now.
It sounds great. Everyone claps. It's a highly respectable, socially acceptable answer.
But behind closed doors, in the Oval Office of your brain, the ugly truth is just, I bought a dozen donuts because I completely lack impulse control the second my boss criticizes me.
Yeah, we all have that press secretary.
So why do we employ them? Why do we build these elaborate PR campaigns for our own failures instead of just being honest?
It's a highly sophisticated ego protection mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
The press secretary exists because the alternative is psychological agony.
Really, agony.
Absolutely. Think about the PR excuses we use. Work just got incredibly crazy this week, or I didn't have the right equipment, or the timing just wasn't right. These excuses are brilliant because they cast you as the victim of circumstance.
Right. They protect your core identity as a capable, disciplined person who was simply thwarted by an unfair universe.
It's a way of saying, I didn't fail the test was flawed.
But to actually change, you have to fire the press secretary.
You do, because naming the real reason requires a devastating level of vulnerability. To look in the mirror and say, I didn't stop because work got busy. I stopped because I'm terrified of looking stupid at the gym.
Or I stopped because I'm addicted to the comfort of my couch.
Yeah, that shatters the ego. But here is the unyielding rule of behavioral psychology. Until you explicitly name this hidden truth, your very next reset is absolutely guaranteed to fail.
You cannot defeat an enemy you refuse to name.
Exactly. If you pretend the enemy is a lack of time, you'll go buy a new time management app. You'll spend hours color-coding your calendar.
But if the real enemy in the Oval Office is fear of failure, that app is utterly useless.
You just become hyper-organized about avoiding the work.
So what happens on day 8? Once you reach this turning point of confronting the truth, you start to see that the reasons we fail usually boil down to 3 incredibly common, incredibly painful structural truths.
These are the underlying structural issues that the superficial new journal reset never addresses. And the first core truth is a tough one to swallow.
Let's hear it.
You never actually wanted the goal in the first place.
Inherited goals. I see this everywhere.
It is rampant. You adopted a goal because society, your parents, or, your social media feed told you that a successful person runs marathons or starts a tech side hustle.
Or wakes up at 5 a.m. to take an ice bath.
Right. You watch a polished influencer talk about their morning routine, and you absorb their desires as your own. But internally, deep down, you have zero intrinsic desire for it.
So you try to force yourself to become a morning person when your natural chronotype is a night owl simply because hustle culture dictates that success only happens before dawn.
And then you wonder why you quit on day 7. Your soul is essentially rejecting an organ transplant it never asked for.
Wow, that's a visceral way to put it.
But it's true. You lack the internal leverage required to push through the discomfort because the reward at the end of the tunnel isn't something you actually value. If your goal is inherited, the friction of day 7 will always defeat you.
Because there's no authentic why anchoring you to the task.
Exactly.
But what if it is your goal? Let's say you genuinely want it, it's not inherited. There is a second trapdoor waiting for you.
Yes, there is.
The second core truth that derails the reset is that you attempted the journey completely alone, without a single person holding you accountable.
We romanticize isolation so much. We love the cinematic idea of the lone wolf, grinding in silence, doing the work in the dark, and then shocking the world with their sudden success.
It makes for a great movie montage.
It does. But biologically and psychologically, isolation breeds rationalization.
What exactly is happening in our brains when we try to do this alone?
When you are the only one holding the standard, you are both the judge and the defendant. When you wake up tired on a Tuesday morning, your brain activates its internal defense attorney.
Oh, the internal lawyer is so persuasive.
Right. It is remarkably easy to convince yourself that taking a day off is actually a strategic decision to prevent burnout. Your brain will synthesize incredibly logical-sounding arguments for why you should hit snooze.
Which quickly turns into a week off and then a month off.
Without external accountability, your brain's internal lawyer will win the negotiation every single time. Accountability introduces a social cost to quitting.
Because you have to admit it to someone else.
Yes. It overrides the internal negotiation. Because now, hitting snooze doesn't just mean breaking a promise to yourself, which we do constantly. It means looking another human being in the eye and admitting you didn't do the thing you said you were going to do.
Okay, let's look at the third truth. Even if it is your authentic goal, and even if you have an accountability partner, there is still a massive obstacle that takes most people out.
The hardest one, probably.
Right. The work turned out to be much harder than expected, and you simply quit the exact moment it stopped being exciting.
Yeah.
Now, I have to push back on this a little bit. This feels like the ultimate trap for modern society. We live in a world that constantly bombards us with the message to follow your passion, find what you love.
The whole do what you love mandate.
Exactly. The prevailing wisdom is that if you find your passion, you'll never work a day in your life.
Huh?
So if something stops being exciting and starts feeling like an absolute mind-numbing grind, doesn't our brain naturally trick us into thinking, oh, this must be the wrong path for me?
This raises perhaps the biggest cognitive distortion we face today. We have culturally conflated passion with constant entertainment.
That's a huge distinction.
We assume that if we are meant to do something, it will perpetually feel good. To understand how to break this distortion, we have to look at the philosophies of extreme endurance athletes and people who have truly mastered discipline.
Right. The material mentions figures like David Goggins.
Yes, who speaks endlessly about embracing physical suffering, or Alex Hormozy, who approaches business as a volume game of enduring the mundane, or thinkers like Joe Rogan and Chris Williamson.
Guys who constantly explore the necessity of doing hard things simply because they are hard.
Exactly. They represent the absolute antithesis of quitting when you get bored.
But how do they actually do it? What is the mechanism they are using that the rest of us are missing on day 7?
They have fundamentally redefined their relationship with boredom and suffering. If we synthesize their philosophies, the lesson is clear. Excitement is merely a launch pad.
The launch pad, not the whole trip.
Exactly. It's the initial chemical thrust that gets the rocket off the ground. But excitement is a terrible, highly volatile fuel for the long journey.
You can't run a marathon on the adrenaline of the starting gun.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. The starting gun is loud, the crowd is cheering, you feel invincible. That's day 1. But at mile 18, there is no crowd.
It's just you.
There's just pain, monotony, and silence. The true reset requires a radical acceptance of that mile 18 boredom. You have to acknowledge up front, before you even start, that the bulk of the work required to change your life will be unexciting, difficult, repetitive, and deeply lonely.
So when the excitement fades on day 7 and that new playlist stops hyping you up, that is not a signal that you are on the wrong path.
No, absolutely not. That is the signal that the actual work has finally begun. Everything before day 7 was just the honeymoon phase. The moment it gets boring is the moment the real transformation process initiates.
So how do you, the listener, actually finish this journey? If the excitement is dead, the new gear didn't save you, and your press secretary has been fired, what do you actually do when the alarm goes off on day 8?
The final step of the journey is standing in the wreckage of your failed attempts, looking at the goal, and declaring, again.
Just again.
But this time, the again is fundamentally different. You are not saying it with a naive smile, armed with a brand new planner and a hit of anticipatory dopamine. You are saying again while carrying the heavy, explicitly named truth of your past failures.
You're bringing your baggage with you, but this time you know exactly what's inside the bags. You aren't pretending they're empty.
You look at the task and say, I'm going to try again. I know I am going to want to quit in a week because I hate being uncomfortable. I know my brain will try to negotiate a day off, and I'm going to do it anyway. That is a reset rooted in reality, not fantasy. That is a reset that holds.
Let's bring this all together. We've just taken you on a chronological journey of the human attempt to change. We started with the deceptive, intoxicating high of a new Monday with fresh gear, letting dopamine trick us into feeling accomplished.
Riding that wave until the inevitable day 7 crash.
Exactly. We learned that the crash isn't a failure, it's a deeply ingrained behavioral pattern. We waded through the painful, ego-shattering realization of why we build PR excuses to protect ourselves.
The whole press secretary concept.
And we finally confronted the brutal hidden truth, whether it was chasing someone else's inherited goal, letting our internal lawyer negotiate us into isolation, or folding the second the excitement wore off.
This deep dive is ultimately for anyone who is just fundamentally exhausted by restarting.
Yeah.
If you are tired of running the same first mile of the marathon over and over and over again, constantly buying new running shoes but never seeing what the finish line looks like,
Yeah.
this is the psychological blueprint to break the loop.
So how do we make this actionable right now? What is the homework for the listener?
Look at whatever goal you are currently trying to reset. The weight loss, the business, the relationship, the creative project.
Wow.
First rule, stop buying new gear. Do not download another productivity app. Do not buy another notebook. Instead, sit down and identify the PR excuse you gave your friends the last time you quit. Write out exactly what your press secretary said.
Get it out on paper.
And then, right next to it, force yourself to write down the ugly, private, deeply uncomfortable Oval Office truth about why you actually stopped.
Name the enemy.
Name the enemy. Because only when you see the actual monster you are fighting can you design a strategy to defeat it.
I love that. And to wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to carry with you. We've talked so much today about the rush of the fresh start, the clean slate, the magic of a new Monday.
We all love that feeling.
But if your constant desire for a fresh start is actually just a comfortable, socially acceptable disguise for running away the second things get hard, what would happen if you permanently banned yourself from ever having a fresh start again? What if, starting tomorrow, you weren't allowed to wipe the slate clean, but instead you forced yourself to pick up the messy, boring, unbroken pieces exactly where you left them?